What I have for sale here today are two planes by Keen Cutter. These are more than likely made by Stanley, almost certainly made by Stanley. This is a K3 and a K4 plane. They're about the same length. K4 is a little bit longer and certainly wider. These K planes from Keen Cutter share what is referred to as the early Bedrock design. And I'll talk a little bit more about that and show you why people say that in a few minutes. But these two planes are in very nice condition overall, are very usable condition. They're good user planes. I have cleaned them up some in that when they came to me they had some rust on the sides and on the soles and things like that, so I did want to clean them up and make them look a little bit nicer. The K3 plane here is in really good overall condition. It's got a nice knob on the front, a high rosewood knob. It's got a nice rosewood tote on the back that's in really good condition. Both very firm and solid. Neither of these planes has any chips or breaks or any hidden damage on it at all. The K3 here is in better condition. It has the correct Keen Cutter marked iron on it. The iron has quite a bit of life left to it. I'll show you that after I get done practicing a little bit. When I clean up the soles, I don't overdo it. I don't try and get them super flat or anything like that. I do try and clean them up a little bit and get them tuned up, make sure that they work well, but that's about it. So on this particular plane, if you can, I'll bring this up closer to the camera, there's a file mark or something here, a scratch or deeper scratch on it. Doesn't affect use at all. There's a few bumps here in the sole. Not sure exactly what happened, but overall this is more than flat enough to work well. The K4 is also in good usable shape. The sole's in good shape as well. The blade on this one, which is correctly marked with the Keen Cutter, is a little bit rougher. To get this tuned up and work well, I did have to put a bevel on the back of the blade, a micro bevel on the back of the blade, because there's a little bit of damage or pitting to the blade. But it's in good usable shape, which I'll show you here in just a second, and it'll work just fine. This plane has a slightly lower knob, almost looks like it's been customized a little bit, has a little bit of a crack here in the knob. I think it's mostly cosmetic, certainly isn't affecting the use of the plane at all. And then the tote itself, I think it's a hardwood. It's darkly stained back on the rear where the stain is coming off. I think from use probably. I think there's a hardwood showing through when you took off the tote and you look at it from underneath. It certainly looks like a hardwood. I don't know that this was original to the plane. It may have been a replacement at some point, but it's well shaped. It's in good firm condition. It's comfortable to use, so I haven't replaced it at all. So we have the two planes here. I've got a piece of cherry just to kind of demo them a little bit. I'm not going to do a lot of work here, but you'll see. You're able to produce some shavings with this plane. Seems to be, maybe I bumped it once and the blade came back out a little bit. This is the 4. So that works just fine to produce shavings. So two really good planes here from Keen Cutter for sale. Certainly you could tune them up more, probably make them work better than I did, but I do like to get them in good cosmetic shape so people can see that. Now, both of these planes show evidence that they have been repainted at some previous time. I did not repaint them. I generally don't do that on planes. But these show signs of being repainted. Certainly the K3 has been. You can see it a little bit here. The K4, a little bit harder to tell. Perhaps it hasn't been, since some of the bare metal shows through right at the toe, but it may have been. It's kind of hard for me to tell exactly on these planes. But again, they both look nice, and I think they'll both be good users for somebody. So I mentioned earlier these are the early Bedrock design planes, and I wanted to talk a little bit about what that means. So when people say that, what they mean is, so early Bedrock, it has the flat sides, but it has the adjusting screw for the frog to move it forward and back at the rear of the plane. Now these are older planes. These are probably right around the turn of the century planes. So that was a feature you only found early on in the bedrock planes. The other part of that people talk about, there you can see some of the damage to that plane, that iron, a little bit of pitting on it, but what people mean mostly when they say it's the early bedrock design is if you look at the mating area between the frog and the sole, which is what we'll do here, what you find is that there is a wide, flat mating surface between the plane body and the sole of the plane, right through here. And what that does is it makes for a very firm, very strong match between the two. Now, of course, for that to work well, these surfaces have to be machined really tightly, and I find that on these older planes they really are. So that gives you a really good hold between the frog and the sole of the plane, and that's what people really refer to when they're talking about the early bedrock design, that and the adjusting screw for the frog itself. Now later on, Stanley, of course, put that adjusting screw on all planes. So this is a Stanley Bailey, not a bedrock plane, from later on in the production run. This is probably a Type 17 or 18. And here what you'll find with the frog, as opposed to this early one, well, first off, you can see on the face here of the frog where the bed, or where the blade matches to the frog itself. You've got here one solid machine surface. Here you've got sort of the cutout pattern where the frog would come into, or where the frog would come in contact with the blade. But really the big difference is here on the back, because what you have is, instead of this big machined surface, you have some points of contact. And actually on this, it's 4 points of contact. Here, 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 and here is where the frog seats to the plane. Even though this is machined all the way across, it only touches, you could see, on the body of the plane here, 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 and here. So that connection between the two isn't nearly as much surface area, and because of that, in use you may, or it's alleged that you may get the frog to move a little bit or flex a little bit more, which is why these early Keen Cutters, the K version of the Keen Cutter planes, are desired, is because of that early bedrock design. So these two are for sale. They came to me together. I'd like to keep them together, so I'll offer them as a package deal first. And if they don't sell that way, well, we'll see what happens. Not the Bailey, that's mine, one of my users, but the two Keen Cutter planes that I've been talking about today. Thank you.